Picture this for a second. You are one of the most famous athletes on the planet. Every single thing you do on a basketball court is dissected, debated, and broadcast to millions of people around the world. Your name trends on social media before you even lace up your sneakers. Cameras follow you from the moment you step off the team bus to the moment you disappear into the tunnel after the final buzzer. And somehow, in the middle of all of that attention, in the middle of all of that scrutiny, you receive a technical foul during a nationally televised game, and you have absolutely no clue it happened. None. Zero awareness. You do not find out from the referee who supposedly assessed it. You do not find out from your head coach who is supposed to be managing every single detail of the game from the sideline. You do not find out from a teammate who might have overheard the call. No. You find out from a reporter sitting across from you in the post-game press conference, asking you about it like it is common knowledge, because to everyone else in that building it was. And your response, delivered with wide eyes and genuine bewilderment, is simply this: "Oh, did I get a technical?" That is not a scripted moment. That is not a rehearsed line designed to generate clicks. That is Caitlyn Clark, the most electrifying player in women's basketball, learning in real time that she was one outburst away from being thrown out of a game her team was in the process of winning. And if that single moment does not perfectly encapsulate everything that makes following this player and this team the most entertaining, unpredictable, and utterly compelling storyline in all of professional basketball right now, then I honestly do not know what would. Let me walk you through everything that happened, because the layers to this story just keep stacking on top of each other. Before we wade into the chaos and the comedy of the technical foul revelation, let us give the basketball its proper respect, because what happened between the lines on Friday night actually mattered. The Indiana Fever took on the Golden State Valkyries and came away with a hard-fought 90-82 victory. This was not a game where Indiana came out and dominated from start to finish. This was not a blowout where the outcome was decided in the first quarter. This was a gritty, physical, back-and-forth contest that required the Fever to dig deep in the second half, find another gear, and claw their way to a win that they earned every single possession of. And here is the detail that deserves far more attention than it has been receiving. That victory gave Indiana back-to-back wins. 2 consecutive victories, one achieved without Caitlyn Clark when she sat out the previous game against Portland with back stiffness, and one achieved with her back in the lineup and performing at an elite level. That distinction matters because it tells us something important about this roster. This is not a one-woman show. This is a team that has enough depth and enough collective fight to compete even when their biggest star is unavailable. But it is also a team that becomes significantly more dangerous, more dynamic, and more capable of sustained excellence when Clark is on the floor orchestrating the offense. The fact that both of those wins came during a week where the franchise was drowning in off-court controversy makes the accomplishment even more impressive. The Fever were dealing with questions about their injury reporting. They were dealing with a formal warning from the league office. They were dealing with media scrutiny over how their head coach communicated Clark's status to the public. And through all of that noise, through all of that distraction, the players went out and took care of business. Twice. That speaks to a level of mental toughness and professional focus that deserves genuine recognition. Now let us talk about what Caitlyn Clark did individually, because even setting aside the technical foul theatrics, her stat line from Friday night was outstanding. 22 points. 9 assists, 2 rebounds, 32 minutes of floor time. Read those numbers again and consider the context surrounding them. This is a player who missed the previous game entirely due to back stiffness. She was listed as probable heading into Friday, meaning there was legitimate uncertainty about whether she would even suit up. She was not officially cleared to play until the morning of the game. And then she went out and delivered a performance that would be considered excellent for any player in the league on any given night, let alone one who was dealing with a physical issue significant enough to sideline her just days earlier. 9 assists in 32 minutes is not just a good number. That is an elite playmaking performance. That means Clark was finding her teammates in scoring positions with remarkable consistency, reading the defense, creating advantages, and converting those advantages into easy opportunities for the people around her. She was not just scoring. She was making everyone around her better, which is the hallmark of a truly transcendent basketball player. And she did all of this while simultaneously dealing with whatever lingering effects her back issue might have been causing, while navigating a game that included a physical altercation with an opposing player, and while apparently carrying a technical foul that she did not even know she had. The sheer volume of things Caitlyn Clark was managing on that court, both visible and invisible, makes the final stat line even more remarkable. Now we arrive at the centerpiece of this entire story, the moment that launched 1,000 social media posts and gave basketball fans everywhere something to laugh about, marvel at, and debate all weekend long. Here is what happened on the court, as best as the reporting and the post-game comments allow us to reconstruct it. During the first half of the game, there was a physical exchange between Caitlyn Clark and Golden State's Janelle Salaun. According to reports and Clark's own description, she was going for a rebound when Salaun shoved her in the back. Clark reacted. She got close to Salaun. Words were likely exchanged. The moment was heated, physical, and exactly the kind of competitive flare-up that happens in professional basketball games with regularity. In the aftermath of that exchange, the officials assessed a double technical foul, one on Salaun and one on Clark. That is a fairly standard resolution for that type of mutual confrontation. Both players get tagged, the game moves on, and everyone is put on notice that further escalation will not be tolerated, except for one rather significant problem. Caitlyn Clark did not know she had been assessed a technical foul. She was in the middle of the game, she was competing, she was focused on the basketball. And whatever method the officials used to communicate the technical, whether it was a hand signal, a verbal announcement, or some other mechanism, it did not register with Clark. She continued playing the rest of the game completely unaware that she was carrying a technical foul, which meant she was completely unaware that one more technical would result in her automatic ejection. And it was not just Clark who missed the memo. Head coach Stephanie White also confirmed after the game that she had no idea her star player had been assessed a technical foul. The head coach of the team, the person whose job it is to manage every strategic detail of the game, including knowing which of her players are in foul trouble and which are at risk of ejection, did not know that her most important player was one incident away from being removed from the contest. Think about the implications of that for a moment. The Fever mounted a second-half comeback to win this game. They trailed and then fought back. During that comeback, during that critical stretch of basketball where every possession mattered and every decision had consequences, Caitlyn Clark was playing aggressively, competing physically, and doing all the things that great players do when their team needs them most. And she was doing all of that while sitting on a technical foul that could have ended her night at any moment. If Clark had gotten into another confrontation, if she had reacted too demonstratively to a call, if she had done anything that an official interpreted as worthy of a second technical, she would have been ejected. The Fever's best player would have been removed from a game that was still very much in the balance, and neither she nor her coach would have seen it coming. That is either a significant failure in how the officials communicated the technical foul, or it is one of the most absurd and entertaining communication breakdowns in recent WNBA history. Possibly both. But the on-court situation, as wild as it was, pales in comparison to the sheer comedic brilliance of how Clark found out about it after the game. She was sitting in the post-game press conference, taking questions from reporters, doing the standard media availability that every player participates in after a game. And a reporter, presumably expecting Clark to have some prepared thoughts on the subject, asked her about the technical foul and the exchange with Salaun. And Clark's face changed, not to anger, not to frustration, to genuine, unmistakable confusion. She looked at the reporter like they had just told her that her car had been towed, like someone had delivered unexpected news about a package she did not remember ordering. And she said the words that are now immortalized in WNBA post-game lore. "Oh, did I get a technical?" She did not know. She genuinely, authentically, 100% did not know. And then, as the reality of the situation began to set in, as she processed not just that she had received a technical, but also that she had played the entire second half one incident away from ejection without knowing it, her reaction evolved from confusion into something far more entertaining. She started connecting the dots out loud, in real time, in front of the cameras. She referenced that the call made sense given how the rest of the night had gone. She acknowledged that she probably should have been more careful in the second half, if she had actually known she needed to be. She estimated with a grin on her face that she probably had around $1,000 worth of fines coming her way. She described the officiating as interesting, and that single word did more heavy lifting than most paragraphs could manage. And then she laughed. She genuinely laughed about the whole thing. Not a bitter laugh, not a sarcastic laugh, but the kind of laugh that comes from a person who recognizes the absurdity of her own situation and finds it as entertaining as everyone else does. That is a moment of pure, unfiltered authenticity from one of the most scrutinized athletes in the world, and it was absolutely magnetic. You cannot manufacture that. You cannot coach that. You cannot script that. That is Caitlyn Clark being exactly who she is, and it is one of the reasons why she has become the most compelling figure in women's basketball. Stepping back from the humor and the chaos of the technical foul situation, there are some genuinely important questions embedded in this story that deserve serious consideration. First, the officiating communication issue. If a player receives a technical foul, that player and that player's coaching staff need to know about it immediately and unambiguously. A technical foul is not a minor notation. It carries direct consequences, not just in terms of free throws for the opposing team, but in terms of the player's continued eligibility to participate in the game. When a player is one technical away from ejection, that information fundamentally changes how the player and the coaching staff approach every remaining minute of the contest. The fact that neither Clark nor White were aware of the technical means that either the communication was inadequate or the chaos of the moment swallowed it up. Either way, it is a situation that should not repeat itself. Second, the nature of the original exchange deserves scrutiny. If Salaun initiated the physical contact by shoving Clark in the back, and if Clark's reaction was a response to being shoved rather than an unprovoked act of aggression, then the even distribution of technical fouls feels like a convenient resolution rather than an accurate one. Officials are tasked with seeing the full picture, not just reacting to the most visible moment in a sequence. Player getting shoved in the back and then responding with intensity is a different situation than a player initiating a confrontation out of nowhere. The context matters, and it should be reflected in the calls. Third, there is the physical dimension to consider. Clark was playing through a back issue. She had missed the previous game because of it. Being shoved in the back by an opposing player is not just a competitive annoyance under those circumstances. It is a potential aggravation of an existing injury. Officials and opposing players may not be expected to know every detail of every player's medical history, but the reality is that Clark's back issue was one of the most discussed topics in the entire league that week. It was not a secret. The potential for that kind of contact to cause real harm was not theoretical. Here is what I find most encouraging about everything that transpired this week, and I want to be clear about this because I have been very critical of the Fever's organizational communication, and I stand by that criticism entirely. The players on this team are performing at a high level. They are competing hard, they are winning games, and they are handling adversity with maturity and professionalism that the organizational infrastructure around them has not consistently matched. Caitlyn Clark came back from injury and delivered a dominant performance. The supporting cast held things together in her absence. The team found ways to win in two very different circumstances against two different opponents. And when confronted with an absurd post-game situation that could have easily turned into a bitter rant about officiating, Clark handled it with humor, poise, and just enough pointed commentary to make her feelings known without crossing any lines. That is a franchise with a foundation worth building on. The talent is there. The competitive spirit is there. The star power is undeniable. What needs to improve, and what the league warning should catalyze improvement on, is the organizational professionalism surrounding communication, transparency, and the management of information in a media environment that is more intense and more scrutinized than anything the WNBA has dealt with before. If the Fever can get those organizational elements up to the same standard as the on-court product their players are delivering, this team is going to be a problem for the rest of the league. A serious, sustained, championship-caliber problem. At the end of the day, when you strip away all the layers of controversy and comedy and chaos, what you are left with is a simple truth. Caitlyn Clark is a generational talent who makes everything around her more interesting, more dramatic, and more watchable. She went out on Friday night, played through a back issue that had sidelined her days earlier, put up 22 points and 9 assists in a comeback win, unknowingly played an entire half on the brink of ejection, and then found out about the whole thing from a reporter while the cameras were rolling. And she laughed about it. She estimated her fines with a grin, called the officiating interesting with the diplomatic precision of a seasoned politician, and moved on to the next question like the consummate professional she is. That is not just entertainment. That is a player who is so completely locked into who she is and what she brings to this sport that even the most absurd circumstances cannot rattle her. The Fever won back-to-back. Clark reminded everyone why she belongs in every MVP conversation. And the technical foul post-game moment gave us one of the most genuinely funny and humanizing scenes of the entire season. The drama will continue. The scrutiny will not let up. The cameras will keep rolling and the questions will keep coming. But Caitlyn Clark has shown over and over again that she is built for exactly this moment. All of it, the brilliance, the chaos, and everything in between. And honestly, would we want it any other way? She literally had no idea Clark found out about her technical foul from a reporter in the post-game presser. Not the ref, not her coach, from a reporter. Drop your reaction below also. Do you think the tech was justified given that Salaun shoved her first? Let's debate it. And if you're new here, subscribe. We do this every week.